Welcome back to Evil Popcorn. It is I, Mr. Popcorn, and as you can see, if you are watching there, children, I've got a guest, and it's not the usual people on the pod with me. They're off doing their own things. They will be back, of course, as it happens in life. So a friend of mine and work buddy at Evilcorp is also a fellow horror film fan. And I got the general impression anyway, just general impression, that is at least open to watching more extreme cinema.
Yeah.
And I'll let them introduce themselves. How are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm good. Just came home from work, but it's fine. Yeah, I have been watching some of the stuff on this iceberg that we'll be talking about. And yeah. I wasn't having fun.
I'm scared.
I was just getting
I'm a little scared.
Yeah, I was just annoyed. I was just getting mad.
Okay, interesting. Okay, interesting. Yes, children. First of all, their name is Dorian. Dorian, thank you very much for doing this, lifesaver. Children, yes, put it into context. So what we're doing is we're starting off. This is just another conversation, but very specific, as we are going to do the Horror Iceberg. I'm not sure what its official name is. Extreme Horror Iceberg. If you're listening to this podcast, generally speaking, you know what it is. As Dorian is alluding to, it gets more fucked up as you go down in the tiers. Yeah. To dark places that I didn't even know existed. But we'll get.
Yeah.
So we're just going to have a general discussion about the first movie that Dorian picked from the first tier. Before we reveal the movie. Well, that's already revealed. It's in the title.
Yeah.
Whoops. We're doing the Grudge. It's on the first tier. I defined it as a gateway horror. Yeah. What did you think of the first tier, Dorian?
It's definitely gateway horror, as in like they're really good ones for when you're first exploring it and dipping your toes into the genre. Because I mean, let's be real, like Friday the 13th is on there, and Nightmare on Elm Street, and
Insidious.
Looking at and watching them now in like modern times and how film looks now, they kind of like Nightmare on Elm Street looks goofy as hell nowadays. But I mean, like I remember when The Conjuring first came out, like that time period, we weren't really getting a lot of movies that had the kind of atmosphere that one had. So that one was really, really good. But it's very much an entry thing. You've got Scream and Insidious, Child's Play, Annabelle, all those kinds of ones. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's the sort of thing I reckon if you take your adolescent child, if they've got a show a proclivity towards horror, they'd be pretty much fine. Yeah. Hence gateway horror. And to segue from that, it's a thing I want to start asking guests. 2 questions. First one, what's your favorite scary movie? Just for today, doesn't have to be of all time, just right at this moment.
Yeah, goddamn.
Throw one of the,
Yeah. That's always a really, really tricky question. Like for me, like Scream is definitely like one of those comfort movies for me. Like any Scream movie, I put it on. The moment you first hear that, like that intro for Scream, I just, all warm fuzzy inside. So that's definitely one of my favorites. And that's then cool. Also like the first Saw movie, I will to everyone, I'll be like, you need to watch it. It's not what you think it is. Please watch it. Because also made by 2 Aussies on like a shoestring budget, like straight out of film school.
Yeah, so, absolutely. And had to go, basically beg and plead in Hollywood as well. Yeah, that's quite.
And look at them now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, crazy. Yes, Saw 11 is on its way this year or next.
I'm so pumped because they're basically soap operas at this point.
Yeah,
because they're so ridiculous and I love that.
Did you see?
That's what I'm here for.
X? Did you see X?
Yes, I saw it. Yeah, I saw it in 4DX. So with like the moving seats and everything.
Okay.
And I'm like, I can't go back. This is incredible because it was like being on a ride at like a theme park,
Oh,
but I'm
yeah.
watching a Saw movie.
Oh
It
dear,
was so
that's
much
a crazy
fun.
concept. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it was
That's
so
cool.
much fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so yes, we're doing, first of all, I want to be correct in my naming of this movie. It's Ju-on the Grudge, and it was released in 2002, if I'm not mistaken. Just let me double check. Yeah, 2002. Yeah. Um, and your relationship with J horror, yeah, because this
Yeah.
is what pretty much yeah, this
Yeah, I
was
would say yeah, this
tough
one
for you.
and Ringu are probably
Yeah.
this Ju-on and Ringu. If
Mhm.
anyone, if you know any J horror, it's one of those.
Yeah,
And I
totally.
think that might partially be because the American remakes, like people watch
Mhm.
the remakes, and from there they got onto the originals. Um, a lot of the J horror that I've seen is a little bit more just like Takashi Miike, his
Yeah, I was gonna
stuff.
ask, it's a question on here
Yeah,
if you're a fan,
I
because yeah.
love Audition
Well,
and
that's what I was gonna
Ichibukuro
ask. What do you
and
see? How do you see Audition? How do you see Audition?
oh
Because
yeah,
that's kind of the
um,
prototype of all the shit, I would argue.
yeah, yeah. Um, I'm not entirely sure where it would rank on the tier. Because
Hmm.
also like
Hmm.
my standards and my metric is all kinds of fucked up. So I don't know what
Sure.
disturbs a normal person.
Yeah. Okay.
um,
Um,
but yeah,
After you. It definitely had
yeah, like
influence on Ringu and The Grudge.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's not a J horror. J horror is something very
mm,
specific, which I think The
yes,
Grudge
yeah,
is the first one to kind
yeah,
of label it completely. This is a
mm,
J horror. This
yeah,
is the formula.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And
Because
from what I've
Ringu, we'll get
seen from yeah, from what I've seen of um like Eastern horror, because they have like different filmmaking techniques a lot of the time. They tend to, at least the ones I've seen, I haven't seen all of them. Most of the horror films I've seen are Western ones. So I can't speak definitively, but from what I've seen, there seems to be a lot more in terms of like it's a little bit more subtle. I mean, then you have something like Tokyo Gore Police, which obviously is in your face and you know,
yeah,
but the when you
yeah,
think of J horror, you think of
yes,
something like Ju-on and Ringu. You're
yeah,
thinking of that kind of vibe, and that's a lot
yeah,
more subtle and a lot more atmospheric and building
yeah.
tension, and then and it just hits different.
It
And
does. It
even
does.
the gore, Eastern
Mm,
horror, like their gore just looks and feels a lot different as well. Like
yeah.
the effects.
Absolutely. And also how they treat time and space in film
Yeah,
and art in
yeah,
general, and then their relationship to
yeah.
horror and going into myth and folklore and the ghost realm,
Mm,
for want of a better way to
yeah,
put it.
yeah,
Yeah, you know what I mean?
yeah.
That's a huge thing. Um, okay, before we go deeper into the movie, the second question is where when was the first moment? What was the first moment, bit of media, music, movie that you went, yep, this is for me. I like horror movies. I
Oh,
like the dark side of things, etc., etc.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm not sure. Like I was like as a child, I didn't watch like much like scary stuff. And also I was a very sort of like high strung, anxious kind of kid. So weird things like
Okay,
actually freaked me out. But
okay.
then yeah, when I was a teenager, then we, as it is with, hanging out with your friends and all that, you end up watching some horror movies. And
Hmm.
I remember watching
Absolutely.
going to see The Exorcism of Emily Rose in cinemas,
Okay,
which
okay.
also tangent like Jennifer Carpenter, absolutely fucking incredible in that movie. Holy shit. But
Yeah, she is.
that
She
one
is.
that one like I was like this is like really fucked up and freaky, but I'm so here for it. And then
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
later on we watched like Final Destination 3 and that was the first Final Destination movie I'd watched. And
Okay.
that one was so much fun. And I'm like,
It's
okay, like
yeah,
this can be really, really fun. And
yeah.
so from there, I just kind of explored further and further. And then I probably a lot earlier in my like delving into fucked up stuff than I should have. I ended up reading American Psycho, which is way worse than the
Yeah, it
movie's
is. I've
nothing.
read it. I've read
The
it. Yeah,
movie's
it's the movie's
nothing,
nothing.
right?
There's so much
Yeah,
they can't
the
put in.
book,
Yeah,
like there was so much
yeah,
stuff in that book that like
yeah,
I hadn't even touched anything remotely close to that
yeah.
at
It's
that
up there.
point.
Yeah.
And I'm there
Mm,
reading that, and I'm like,
mm.
what the fuck? But then also I'm like really enthralled and really like enraptured.
Okay.
I'm like, this is so fucked up. What the hell?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
You
yeah,
got the
I
bug.
think I
Yeah,
think that yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I get it. I get it. Just quickly, yeah, they're children, and also our fans are called Children of the Popcorn, hence children. Yeah, just so you get the joke there, Dorian.
Excellent.
Yeah, the first horror movie. I mean, there were echoes of things. There were little build-ups, which aren't specifically horror. Like when I was young, I saw certain scenes on the television of the abominable, can't say that word, Dr.
Yeah.
Fives with Vincent
Oh, that movie's
Price.
fantastic.
Yeah,
That's like a
and I
precursor to Saw and Seven.
absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
especially if you think about the key scene, yeah,
Yes.
in both
Yes.
movies. Yeah, it's crazy. It's
Yes.
crazy. And I saw the guy answer a telephone and the spike went through his
Mm.
head and through his
Oh
earlobe.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, if you
yeah.
remember that. And I was like, oh, what is that? I shouldn't be watching that, but I was, yeah, already like, glued to the screen.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the first one was Bunch of Friends, about 11 or 12, Nightmare on Elm Street was the original.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the typical answer, but my little nuance on it is that when I went to bed, the bookshelf and the shadow from the streetlight created the rim
Mm.
of Freddy's
Mm.
head right across my bedroom wall.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Couldn't sleep all one,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah.
terrified, but loved it at the same time.
Yeah.
And our first moment, yeah, to turn to the dark side, was the Cure's Never Enough video.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I grew up in New Zealand, and
Mm.
on farms a lot until about teenage years, that sort of thing. Exposed to nada, yeah, wasn't exposed to
Yeah.
shit. Hadn't seen a music video, hadn't seen goths before. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I became a Robert Smith worshiper after that, and that was and that music video was just like that and Ken Russell's Gothic. There, children. There, there's some context about Mr. Popcorn there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hadn't seen a movie like that before, and those two things combined
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah. That
much. To
one
be
gets
fair,
insane.
yeah, it does.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for that. Thank you for that little new thing I'm trying. Now,
Yeah,
the
no
concept of the
worries.
horror iceberg, yes. If you want to dip out of these, we're gonna responsibly broadcast this stuff. We're gonna not trigger warnings or anything
Mm.
like that, but we're gonna put up
Yeah.
the proper info so you're properly informed about what you're
Yeah.
going into with each of these, certainly
Yeah.
as we go down. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just to state that. First here, yeah,
Yeah.
blah blah
Like,
blah blah blah
yeah,
blah.
the furthest I personally am willing to go on the iceberg is tier 6. Like anything
Mhm.
beyond that, just going by like the precedent of the previous ones and then the names of them all. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know exactly what these are. I'm not
Yeah,
interested.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I've seen stuff, all the way
Mhm,
to tier 6. And I'm
mhm.
like, yeah, I can go that far, but anything beyond that, I'm like, no. I'll either be completely and utterly disinterested or not
Mhm.
interested in looking at stuff that is straight up fucking illegal.
Yeah,
So,
no, absolutely, no, and it's worth stating definitely.
mm,
I don't want to see anything illegal. I don't want to see any,
yeah,
anything innocent or vulnerable being hurt,
yeah,
anything like
yeah,
that. And I guess it's a
yeah,
good point to say why also am I doing this with the iceberg. The podcast is called Evil Popcorn, looking at the dark side of cinema. Kind of have to. But Dorian, I don't want
yeah,
either of us feeling, like, shouldn't be watching
yeah,
this. So
yeah,
we can discuss off air, like we can just slightly
mm,
research, making sure it's nothing too crazy, that
yeah,
this is, a consent-based thing.
yeah,
And yeah, there's the disclaimers basically, yeah, and what this is all about. And yeah, basically it gets more extreme as you go down in tiers. So the first one, gateway tiers, and there's about 8 to 10 movies, so we're perfectly safe for now.
yes.
With the Grudge, chew on the Grudge. we're not going to go deep with it. They're easily accessible, but a lot of you already know this. Dorian, overall, watching it in 2023 specifically, to start with, what did you think?
Like it's been a really, really long time since I last watched it. So it was pretty fresh to me in my mind. And I fucking loved it.
Okay.
Like so much stuff. I'm just like, oh my God, like just in terms of the cinematography, and then also just the scares that happen are so like they are built up so well. And it's so refreshing seeing something that is as quiet and subtle as it is with its scares. Because if you were to watch something like that now, especially if it was a Western film, pretty much every single scare would be broadcast through like the score, and then you'd have some kind of musical stinger accompanying it.
Yeah.
And
100%,
that pretty much never happens in this movie. Like you have these moments where like, here's this freaky moment, and nothing in the score is, you know, coming along with it. And in terms of like where it's, you know, that particular scare is happening isn't like front and center or anything. It's kind of like off in the corner or whatever. And it's just, it was so refreshing.
Excellent. Yeah, good to hear. The sound is great. Yeah, the sound design in this is good. We all know the sound. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Yeah, it's become part of pop culture. That the sound of the Grudge. It is just a little context there, children. Before we go into the movie, what does Ju-on mean? Yeah, looked it up. It is interesting. But first of all, before we get into the general information about the film, according to the film, the curse gathers in the place where the person has died or which they frequented and repeats itself there. And I say that. Do you feel this is a kind of a haunted house movie? It's pretty much, you know, that is the locale of the spooky shit. Yeah.
Like
what
I like that the overall storyline for this movie isn't like the origins of why everything that's happening in it isn't explicitly explained. Especially like at the end, it's like, that's why everything is happening. You know, if you pay attention to the movie, it's like, okay, so that's what happened, and this, that, and the other. But then you have the opening text that is explaining the concept of Ju-on. And it being, you know, this curse, you know, something awful happens in this location, and therefore the location is cursed. Anyone who is inside that location ends up being cursed as well, which is why everyone who enters that house ends up dying somehow.
Yeah.
There was a really good Netflix series, like it was on Netflix. There was a series that was like an Origins kind of thing. And that one had some good little fucked up moments in it.
Okay. And it's funny that you say that.
One's worth looking into.
Well, it's funny that you say that, Dorian, because this is a whole thing. Ju-on is a whole thing. It's a franchise. So. It's a franchise that consists of 13 films, including 4 American-produced films and 1 streaming television series. Thank you. Alongside various additional media and merchandise products, blah blah blah. But there's also a stage play. That was released in August last year. Yeah, if you look it up, I'll throw up the photos on the Facebook page, Instagram, etc. Their children, and and it looks really cool.
There's also a crossover. with Ringu, Sadako
Yeah,
versus Kayako,
that's it. Thank you.
which
Thank you. Yeah.
oh my God, like it's essentially it plays out like a standard Ringu movie.
Hmm.
And then like finally within the last 20 minutes of the movie, you finally have Sadako versus Kayako. And it's
Yeah.
like
It's a
you may
Dragon
as
Ball
well
Z
just
like battle thing,
yes,
isn't
it
it? Yeah, yeah,
really
yeah,
is. It
yeah.
really is. And honestly, you may as well just look up that end sequence on YouTube. It's on there
Okay.
and just watch that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, if you want to watch the full movie, go for it. But like, if you just want to see Sadako versus Kayako, it's the end 20 minutes of the movie. Just find it on YouTube.
There you go. Recommendation, children.
Yeah.
Adheed.
There was also a relatively recent, it was an American one, relatively recent in the past. Oh God, I don't know time.
Mm.
So I'm gonna say within 5 years or so, and it was not good. It wasn't good.
Yeah,
I
I've
remember
heard that.
that's all I
Yeah,
remember about it. I don't
yeah,
remember
yeah, yeah. Okay,
anything beyond that.
okay.
Just not
Um,
being super into it.
there's the major remake, which
Mm.
maybe a lot younger
With yeah.
children out there would have seen with Sarah Michelle Gellar with Buffy.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
thought it was okay at the
Yeah.
time, but I hadn't seen or heard of
Yeah.
5,000
Yeah.
remakes of
And
something
then
that was released 2 months ago originally.
yeah, is it
Yeah.
there were certain scenes when I was rewatching it, this one,
Mm.
I was just like, oh, that's right. I was it Scary Movie 3 that did it? Yeah. So I'm just
Yeah,
there like,
sounds
oh,
good.
I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
this
yeah.
scene in Scary
Yes.
Movie.
This is how big J horror, because Ringu was in Scary
Yeah.
Movie as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Auditions not,
As
because that's
yeah,
another thing.
no.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
little bit too niche, I think.
Yeah. J horror, where does it stand in society, just quickly, for those who really don't know about it? It was a big wave in the early 2000s, yeah. This
Yeah.
thing took over. If you're a horror fan, this is what you were paying attention to. There's other ones out there, like I think it's called The Eye, Curse.
Yes,
There's
the eye,
I
yeah.
forget if they're called
Dark
Three
Water,
Extremes.
yeah,
Dark Water's good. Yeah,
yeah,
originally loved
yeah.
this.
Three
Yeah, the Three
extremes, yeah.
Extremes. There's two of those.
There was
Takeshi Miike's ones
Pulse.
are great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pulse is, yeah, yeah.
Pulse. I
Hmm.
I haven't seen the American one. I've only seen the original. That's so good. It's about
I
like
haven't seen
the
Pulse.
internet. Yeah,
Okay.
it's really good. It's about
Good.
like
Okay.
the
I'll
advent
write
of
it
the
down.
internet and the way in which it's about like loneliness and all that kind of stuff. And like ghosts come along and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And there's this moment, there's just so good, so freaky.
Okay.
Oh,
Cool.
because you've got, this like ghost like coming along and I think they like filmed it in reverse or something. But like she's
Yeah.
moving in this really strange way and it's just
Okay.
it's so good.
Yeah.
I recommend it.
I love the movements of. Sorry, I won't get sidetracked. I'll just put the movement down here. That's good. It's good. J horror came along. I've heard people say that it was pretty much the birth of the internet. You had a few message boards, that sort of thing. Not a lot was happening, but it was a whole new thing. It was people knew, like AI, we're on the precipice of something changing
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
which it did. And also Y2K fear as well. Yeah, that
Yeah.
it's taken it back
I'm
there.
old
Now,
enough to remember
Mhm.
that, to be,
Okay.
conscious and aware of all of that. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
You
do
also had
remember that.
9/11, of course, happened around this
Yep.
time as well. And the whole East-West cinema thing was really starting to kick off, as much as you love him, hate him. Kill Bill is a kind of like, big example of that.
Yeah.
Because there are some American elements in Ju-on, especially more so than in Ringu. But yeah, that's J horror in a nutshell, and it was a huge thing. And then there's been K horror, Thai horror joined the fray. Check out Three Extremes if you want to go back there, children. That would be my big
Those
reference,
are
because
fantastic.
they're all over Asia.
Those
They're
are
all
really
over
good.
Asia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anthologies, 3 anthologies in each volume. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
I think for Thai film, I think the one that people will probably be most aware of is Shutter, because there was an
I've
American
certainly heard
remake
of
of
it.
that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen the American one. I've seen the original. It's really good. But I
Okay, I'll
think
add that
in
to the
terms of
list.
like Thai horror, that's probably the one that people are most familiar with.
Very cool. Thank you. Okay, I think we've set the scene about what we're going to be doing in this little mini series and what the iceberg is, etc. So let's just quickly have a look at the film itself. Directed by Takeshi Shimizu, written by himself as well. I'm assuming himself just there. It doesn't state otherwise. And it did come, it was 2002, came after Ringu. And in a nutshell, I'll just put, I'll say here, is a 2002 Japanese supernatural horror film written and directed by Shimizu. It is the third installment to the Ju-On series and the first to be released theatrically, the first two being direct-to-video productions. And and it is basically about a house that haunts a lot of people because, 10 minutes. Haven't upgraded. Fuck it. Okay, it's all good.
Yeah.
All good. We can come back in.
That's like an important plot point in the movie Host. Have you seen that one?
Yeah. I watched that at the start of it. I watched that as soon as it came out. It just set the tone for the pandemic.
Same. Yeah. Oh, so good, that one.
It's a haunted house. J-horror, I think I'll throw this in there. It reminds me of gothic horror a little. Yeah.
Yes.
Because there is that supernatural
especially
thing,
this one,
ghost thing. Yeah, please.
Yeah, this
and
one
it's
for
dramatic.
sure, because
it's dramatic. Yeah.
You have this tragedy that's occurred, and
it's sad
this
a lot.
house is what's cursed, and
Yes. You mentioned movement earlier on. I want to touch on that. So the movie is a haunted house with a bunch of ghosts that kill people. Whoever ends up at the house, and if they can also carry the curse on to other locations, hence the franchise, pretty much. Because it's an interesting film because it has an episodic structure where basically you see the demise of the bunch of these characters. You just have their name and then their demise in this little vignette. Is that fair? That's the movie.
Because each like little segment kind of thing, you've got like a title card of the character that it's about, and then you just kind of carry on along there, and then you have kind of converging timelines as well, in that, for instance, you have like, it starts out with one character, but then the next segment is, because that initial character, she's there to sort of kind of do like a welfare check on like this elderly woman who's there, whereas everyone else within the house. And then the next segment is what happened there, and then it's you hear like how all that played out and why this elderly woman is left abandoned in the house, and it kind of all intertwines, and then by the end of it, it's like, oh, okay, now I understand what's happened over the course of all this, because I've been given enough information. Absolutely. But again, like I said before, it doesn't actually like explicitly explain it to you. There's no like exposition or anything. It's, if you pay attention to the movie, you will understand what it is that's happening, because like, okay, like these are these characters, this is what's happening. Here's the next bit. Oh, okay, so this happened before then. So that's what happened there. Okay, cool. And then it just continues from that. And in the end, you never have it explicitly explained to you what it is that happened, why this ghost lady with the death rattle is doing what it is that she's doing or anything like that. It's never explicitly stated, but you can figure it out for yourself, because
absolutely, and
good cinema.
That's why I
please filmmakers realize that the audiences aren't stupid. Let them
one of the
figure
reasons
it out
me
for themselves.
And others, that's why I do stuff like this. To put out these motivations is the wrong word, but just these thoughts you can take from pure and simple. That was very nicely put. And I like the confusion. I like the ambiguity, because you don't know what's going to happen, and adds to the anticipation and also the fear. And that's very much the point. It can be done either way. Ambiguity can be played. It's very important, even if it's a linear storyline, more like Ringu. Not to compare the two. But they are very closely related. Related.
You can't talk about one without the other, I feel.
No, you can't. I do agree. Yeah. I liked it. It didn't have the same. I don't know if I was longing and yearning, because I remember when I
Yeah.
first watched this, the effect that it had on me, and maybe I was doing a
Yeah.
little bit of chasing the dragon with this viewing,
Yeah. Yeah. Fair.
because I remember, back around when this actually came out, because I discovered Audition and Ringu before then, so I became interested in it. And and when the little boy, yes, had a big effect on me, and as he would
Yeah.
just appear with these short stabs of music,
Yeah.
that is not the big build up, as you
Yeah.
say. And then there's all the supernatural sounds, the death rattles was a good way to put it,
Yeah.
preceding everything, and what's coming around the corner. And they would film in a way
Yeah.
to show the corner, and then they would creep around the corner, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they had the hair thing as well over the face, taken from Ringu. Lifted, paid homage. I don't think this is a rip-off of Ringu. Unfortunately, it
Yeah.
caught a lot of flack because it was seen as a copycat when it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. But it's gained a cult following. This one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not the franchise.
Yeah.
I'm not going to comment on the others, but this one in particular.
Oh no. Yeah.
So that took it away from me loving it. I wouldn't say I loved the reviewing. But certainly very much appreciated it and remembered why I liked this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do the Ringu next. I am going to do the Ringu.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It does say the ring, but fuck that.
Yeah,
That's all I'm gonna
exactly.
say.
Like, I mean, yeah, admittedly, if you are like a Westerner and this is the top tier and that's entry level, you probably are watching the American version. But we're not gonna do that.
We're not going to do that. Yeah, no disrespect, like what you like,
Yeah.
but for me,
Like
that wasn't that. Yeah,
I should probably
that wasn't
rewatch
it.
those remakes because I mean, from what I remember, like I think like as standalone films, they're fine. Like there's they're pretty decent. But then like that's an issue that I have with like remakes and sequels and stuff like that for movies overall. Sometimes you have to kind of view it as, okay, if I completely remove it from the franchise and everything that I associate it with, my expectations associated with that, is it able to stand up on its own? And sometimes they are, and it's just a case of, because I'm associating it with what's come before, that's why I'm having the opinion that I have. So
yeah.
So,
That's to its testament. That's to its testament. Yeah, no, it did stand up, to its own there, definitely. So it's a very spooky, slow burn, ambiguous, weirdly structured film. Definitely worth a watch. You would recommend it, Dorian, to those who haven't seen it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. Even if you've already seen the Western remakes, doesn't matter.
Yeah, because it's a lot different. It's a lot different because I more strongly remember the Western remake versus this one. And so as I'm watching this one, I'm like, oh, this is it has a much different feel. Obviously, like I said earlier, there's a much different style of filming and all that kind of stuff in terms of like shot composition and audio cues and just general framing and tension build up and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot different. But then also I vaguely remember that the American one went into a little bit more detail as to like the original murders in the house and
it's been ages.
Yeah, I vaguely remember like this moment where there's this reveal as to what actually happened there. I vaguely remember that, and nothing of the sort happens in this movie. It remains very like up to interpretation and which again, like I said, I really appreciated.
Yeah, it's the way to do it.
Let me figure it out for myself.
Let me figure it out. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which this film, does do, and that's why I still think it holds up. It's not going to have that same effect, but that's like that's also chasing the dragon, lightning in a bottle. Nostalgia, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
But overall, for me, yes, I think it was. You had less kind of hindrances, which you've just laid out. I had more of those than you by the sounds of it, but I would still definitely recommend it. Yes.
Yeah.
I would still definitely recommend it. I wanted to quickly point out the movements in the films in Ringu and Ju-on. In Ringu, when she comes out of the TV into the lounge at the start, and she's doing all the broken, cracking, distorted movement. Yeah, she was a kabuki theater performer, and they filmed her going backwards. Yeah.
That's
Uh,
cool. That checks out.
Yeah, it does. It does, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they would also and so when they would reverse it, of course, it's all distorted. And they also dropped frames. It was the first.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you
a
remember that
yeah,
shit? Yeah, that's how it would appear to
yeah,
move forward,
yeah,
it didn't really make sense
yeah,
how it was doing it.
yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yeah. That kind of
Sadako, of
thing, like
course.
always, yeah, it always gives that really good, like uncanny valley kind
There's
of
a lot of that in J horror,
thing.
yes, in both these
Yeah,
films and a lot of the
yeah,
others, yeah, which
yeah.
I really like the
Oh,
uncanny valley thing. Yes,
yes,
I like
yes.
being
When it's done,
disquieted. Yeah.
when it's done properly, because sometimes it's like, no, that's not quite in that valley. You're sort of like here's that valley. You're like here. You're not quite
Yeah.
in the trench, in the deep part of it.
Mm.
Almost, but not quite.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, and I absolutely love that. And the other thing that I wanted to mention that I didn't mention before, because I actually said first horror movie was meant to be favorite scary movie. All right, twofold answer. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, in my opinion, is the best horror movie ever made. That's just my opinion. Now, my favorite thing,
That's a valid opinion. Yeah.
okay, I think it's not one that I'm overly rewatch or anything like that.
Yeah.
But in terms of what they pulled off at the time and just the groundwork it laid
Something
for
else
extreme cinema.
about that one. Yeah, absolutely. But something interesting about that one is people's recollection of it is that it's far more explicitly violent than it actually is.
Yeah. But no.
Because so much of it is just clever camera angles and all that kind of stuff. And so
and the editing is like spot on. Yes.
Like your brain fills in the gaps. But
yes.
if you watch it, like you watch it for the first time, you're like, oh my God, go back and rewatch it.
Yeah.
In comparison to other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the influence
also,
that it's had is crazy.
Yeah. And then just the conditions of like the working conditions and the set and all that kind of stuff. Oh my God. If you don't know about that kind of stuff,
I do.
Look into it because everyone was just in hell. I mean, that's what happens when you're making a horror movie with no budget.
Yeah.
It ends up being actually fucking torture.
And with an obsessive artist, be it good or bad, but an obsessive artist, Tobe Hooper, rest in peace,
who's determined to get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. And this guy also made Poltergeist with Steven Spielberg.
Yes, I know.
That's crazy to think.
But
my favorite at the moment, at this point of time, just to disclaim, sorry, it's Audition.
Oh yeah.
I love Audition.
It's so good. I love that it kind of like pulls a rug from under you.
Yeah.
Because it starts out feeling like this kind of like almost a romantic comedy meet cute kind of thing, and then actually she's crazy.
Yeah, and I think it's the best to ever do that.
Great.
Yeah,
the
ending. If you haven't seen it, check it out because just for the ending, at the very least.
Yeah.
And and so just to clarify that. Is there anything else you wanted to? I think we've kind of, we're going to do the Grudge next. Yeah, Ringu. Sorry, my bad. We're going to do Ringu next.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to say about the Grudge before we close off on Ju-on?
No, I think I've pretty much said everything about like my thoughts on it as a movie. Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. I'm keen on this.
Worries.
Yeah, I'm down to do this. Yeah, because it's just going to get more and more twisted. It's going to be hilarious to look back on this when we start.
I can't wait
happy, nostalgic.
I can't wait to be able to just describe all the fucked up shit. And just like in such a matter of fact kind of, and then this happens and that.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting journey.
Yeah, it's weird that I'm like, that's a thing, and I'm like, oh fuck. That's something that most people would consider to be like way too much. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh yeah,
yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, some people
What
don't
does
even
that
want to
say
know
about
you
me?
if you watch this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
gotta like suss someone out before I let them know just how fucked up I
Yeah,
am.
exactly. Exactly. But we'll look into it first and we'll broadcast it responsibly. But we are going to go there. We're going to
Yes.
continue with the Horror
Yeah.
Iceberg. So be sure to follow us at Evil Popcorn Podcast, at Evil Popcorn Pod on all of the usual stuff, certainly on YouTube. Yeah. And also before we sign off, I wanted to give a shout out to Joey Violin, the Third Scar. The track that you heard in the interlude is called Hostile Possession. I thought it was a suitable title for this movie. Keep your head up
Yes.
there. Keep your head up there, Joey. You're still making great beats. You'll be fine. You're a great producer. And also Jack Dorduke as well. I've neglected. Sorry, Tam. I've neglected to shout you out for the music on previous episodes. All your links are up there, but I wanted to do a verbal shout out. Great beats. Thank you. Keep it going. Keep sending them, please. And join us next time. Thank you, Dorian, for doing this. Absolutely
Yay.
lifesaver, and I'm keen on this. And we'll do the
Yes,
Ringu
I'm
in
so
about.
pumped to
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, cool. And we'll just post it up and let you know. We'll just do this when we can, that sort of thing. Yeah, cool. And
Yeah.
and thank you, Dorian. And this has been Mr. Popcorn for Evil Popcorn, keeping it buttery. Peace. Oh yeah. Sorry, had to.
Uh,